It's officially here, ladies and gentlemen. Tournament day. It's a weekend of tournaments. King and Queen of the Ring, and now Super Strong Style 16 Day 1. There's some stuff to talk about, if you know what I mean. Hello and welcome to FCTR, I am Hugh McQuaid, and today we are talking about Progress Wrestling Super Strong Style 16, the big old Brit Rest tournament that takes place around this time of year, every year, and there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about on this show. I am very excited to dive into this because there were some surprises, there were some shocking events that took place at this show that I need to talk about and air right now. But before we do that, please hit subscribe, please like this video, please comment your thoughts down below. Let me know if you were there because it looked amazing, and I'll try and reply to every single one of them as we dive into this. So for the uninitiated, Progress Wrestling has the Super Strong Style 16 tournament. Every year it is 16 people going to war in what is usually certified bangers. You have had winners like Zack Sabre Jr., like Tommy End, aka Malachi Black, like Will Ospreay. There have been some incredible winners of this tournament, and it has become a staple for me. I really love watching this tournament. I started watching sort of just as Progress came out of like lockdown. We all came out of lockdown, and Chris Ridgway was the first winner that I saw, and I just love it. It was just an awesome tournament, and now I want to watch the tournaments. I want to watch them. It's all fun. I love Progress. I love the tournaments. I love the stories that they tell, and there were some really cool, surprises on this show. The likes of Shelton Benjamin and Mike Santana. There were so many cool people on the show, and overall, as a professional wrestling show, how did this do? This is a part one, of course. Was it good? Was it bad? I thought this show kicked ass. Now, there weren't always bangers. Like, I would say it's like 80%. No, I would say, actually, let me rephrase that. I would say every single match delivered how I would like it to do. I would say every match on the show was from really good to goddamn excellent. There were a few things on the show, namely one thing that didn't sit right with me, and a match finish that was very unfortunate and did take me out of the action a little bit. But overall, I had an absolute blast with this show, and the ending is one that I will remember for a long old time, and I'm very excited to see where this goes. So, with that all out of the way, let me dive into my review where I talk about the matches, the angles, everything that happened on this show, the way a review works, starting with the opening. We had Jerry Bakewell, who was hosting. He did an excellent job. He is a very funny man. Which led us into our opening match, which was Man Like Derice taking on, I still can't pronounce it, it's French, Anglais Blanc. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. And this was a certified banger. I'd never seen anything from Anglais Blanc at all. Like, I'd seen a few clips here and there just to sort of gauge a little bit of knowledge going into this tournament. But I was not prepared for how good this match was going to be. This was sick. This was a great clash of styles between Derice and between Blanc, because you had the power of Derice, who was countering all these flippy moves from Blanc into really cool looking offense, like a really cool tilt-a-whirl side slam and a tilt-a-whirl sort of, I want to say pay dirt kind of thing. Yeah, it was like a flatliner, pay dirt kind of thing. And that was paired with the incredible agility of Blanc, who was so phenomenal in this match. There was some really cool stuff in here as I look at my notes. Like, one of my favourite spots, this probably maybe my favourite spot of the night, was a kip up from Derice that was caught into a dragon suplex. You'd have to seek out a GIF to see how that worked, but it was insanely cool, and Blanc hit a huge 450 to the outside, a springboard 450, which looked amazing, and then a huge superplex spot. You led to the chop war, the WWE 2K24 chop war, where they were just slapping each other, and it was insane to watch. And then you got the signature offense of Derice shining through. You had the kip up into the cutter, which is always a thing of beauty. And then you got a great near fall when Blanc hit a I don't even know how to describe this move. It was a springboard DDT onto the apron from inside the ring. Yes, try and work out how that was possible, but it happened, and that led to a 450, which is a great near fall. But eventually, it was a springboard into a Blue Thunder bomb from Darius. Darius caught that, nailed a Blue Thunder bomb, then hit a 450 for the win. Darius advances. Now, this got my predictions off to a terrible start because I had Blanc winning here, but this was phenomenal. This was a really hot way to open the show, and I'm happy to see Darius advances. I'm happy to hear who will be going against, because we will get to that in a little bit. This was a phenomenal match, a really hot way to open the show. Then we got the sad news that a competitor is injured and won't be able to compete in the Super Strong style, and it turns out to be Simon Miller. Simon Miller comes out and he cuts a really heartfelt promo about not being able to compete in Super Strong style, and he's interrupted by Paul Robinson. Now, this is the only sort of aspect of the show that I wasn't into, because it felt like it took up a lot of time, and I think for me, I've said my piece if you've watched any of my other Progress videos, I'm not really on board with this Paul Robinson Malik storyline. It's just not been for me. It's not been hitting where I want to. And then having Costas come out, having Malik have a brawl, it was all fine stuff, but I'm not invested in this story at all, really. And I'm glad they're getting their match. They're getting the match for the Proteus Championship at the next show. But overall, this overall angle, I thought, took away from sort of the emotion of Simon's, inability to compete. I like turning it into a story. We're probably going to get Robbo versus Miller down the line because he got hit with a low blow. Once this whole Malik stuff's out of the way, and hopefully we can get something a bit more interesting for Malik and Paul Robinson, because it's not hitting for me. Then we had RKJ, Ricky Knight Jr. come out for his match. He was supposed to be facing Simon Miller, but who should appear to take the place? I was thinking it might be Spike Trivet, but no, it is Jack Bandicoot, and these two had a really good match. I love seeing Ricky Knight Jr. in the ring. He is one of my favourite wrestlers working today. The chop that he did on Jack Bandicoot was disgusting. Like, if you can seek out that clip and hear the slap that he does to Bandicoot, it is insane, absolutely insane. And this match sort of played out how I thought it would. Ricky Knight Jr. was getting a lot of offense in, while Jack Bandicoot was being a slippy boy and escaping everything, using his speed to his advantage. But then Ricky Knight Jr. is also very quick, so that's the way that works. So Ricky Knight Jr. hit a superplex, because of course he did, and it was really building well, and it just eventually went to the point where Ricky Knight Jr. was basically like, I have had enough of this. I have had enough, and I'm going to take you out right now, because he hit a devastating powerbomb, like a really high angle powerbomb. It was almost like a last ride, and then a muscle buster to put away Jack Bandicoot. Really cool finish. I really like Ricky Knight Jr. advancing. Jack Bandicoot looked great coming out of this. He shook the hand of Ricky Knight Jr. This was a phenomenal match. This was really fun, and I loved the way that this show was starting and progressing. I thought it was so fun. Next up, we got Eddie Dennis taking on TK Cooper in what was a pretty fun match. This wasn't like as good as the other two, but I really enjoyed this. I really liked the story that these two told in the ring, that was put over really well on commentary, that these two have wrestled each other a lot and they are going to counter absolutely everything. And that's what happened. That ultimately played into the finish as well. They were just reversing people. It started off with a really cool rock, paper, scissors match, which sort of implied, they know each other so well because they both did scissors at the beginning, and that sort of set the tone for the match and the type of story that we were going to get. You got like strikes, then dives. This started off at 100 miles. I say it started with rock, paper, scissors, but it started off at 100 miles an hour because you got strikes, and then you got dives, and then you got TK running wild, hitting a insane, like a springboard Houston hangover is the best way I can describe it, and then an axe kick for a really good near fall and a shooting star press. Then the finish came, and this was what I really liked about this. This finish put over the story that these two were telling in the match, which is that they know each other so well. And you had reversing pile driver counters, which always looks cool. Like the tombstone counters where they roll back. It always looks really cool. And then you got Eddie countering that into a next stop driver for the 1, 2, 3. Really good. I thought it put over really well the story that these two were telling in the ring. And yeah, it was a phenomenally told story. Like, this wasn't like the blowaway match that maybe the first two were, but for wrestling storytelling, I thought this was a really good showing, and Eddie Dennis advances. I'm very excited to see where that goes. Then we got Tate Mayfair's coming out and interrupting Eddie Dennis's celebrations, the bastard that he is, because he is facing KC Navarro, and he will be facing either he would have been facing either Eddie Dennis or TK Cooper. He'll be facing Eddie Dennis, because spoiler alert, he won this match against KC Navarro. That is unfortunate. This is really unfortunate, this match, because this was really good. I liked a lot of the stuff that these two did in the ring. I think KC Navarro is going to go miles in the professional wrestling industry. I think he is incredible. Some of the offense that he was doing and the way his Tron is, the way he's defined his character and his catchphrase is so good. He's got an amazing look to him as well. The ending was so unfortunate to this match, and it's what I think sadly might be remembered from this, because what ultimately happened was Tate Mayfair was getting the offense in. He went for his flying knee on the middle rope, clocked KC Navarro, must have hit him, unfortunately, sort of right in the head, and then he goes for the 1, 2. As the ref goes down for the 3, the ref stops counting, because presumably Casey was supposed to kick out. Casey did not kick out, so the ref stops sort of the count, checks Casey, and then the ref calls the match to an end, because seemingly something nasty happened there with KC Navarro. Nothing to do with Tate Mayfair's. I think this was it was an accident. It was just a complete accident, and unfortunately it probably will taint this little element of strong style, but I don't want it to take away from the fact that these two were putting on an incredible wrestling match. It was really good. I like the character work that both guys were doing. It was just ultimately it ended in an unfortunate accident, and that's a shame. Tate Mayfair's advances. All the best to KC Navarro. I wish him a speedy recovery following this. It was unfortunate, great wrestling match, and yeah, just an unfortunate accident. Then the first half of the show nearly came to an end. We had one more match, and that was Leon Slater versus Shelton Benjamin. What a dream match of sorts. Like, I was really looking forward to this. I feel like I've just not seen Shelton Benjamin wrestle to this capacity. I know obviously he did stuff in New Japan, but I've never seen that. I've only been exposed to his WWE stuff, like his Money in the Bank shenanigans, the super kick, of course, from Shawn Michaels. And Shelton Benjamin's always been one of my favourites. Like, if I think of Money in the Bank ladder matches, I think of Shelton Benjamin. So this match was so good. I thought this was really fun with both guys. Like, ultimately, it was Shelton just outworking Leon Slater, and Leon Slater going for the high-flying offense and then getting shut down by Shelton Benjamin, which I thought was really interesting, a really interesting way to go with it. And it ultimately came to a head when, from out of nowhere, Shelton Benjamin hit the pay dirt for the 1, 2, 3. I legitimately thought that Leon Slater was nailed on to win this. But no, Shelton Benjamin advances to face man like Doris. I think that's a really interesting matchup. I'm very excited to see where that goes. And yeah, very interesting. Leon cut a really heartfelt promo after the match. I thought it was really sweet, talking about his family, talking about how he didn't have a dad, and that sort of playing with Shelton Benjamin's action figures as a kid sort of got him through that. And then they have a really nice hug by the ramp. I thought it was really emotional, really touching stuff. I love Leon Slater. I love Shelton Benjamin. This was, while not the most amazing match in the world, this was super fun match. The second half of the show kicked off with Gene Money taking on Kid Lycos 2. I would say this is probably my least favourite of the matches of the night. I had quite high expectations going into this, and it was really solid from an in-ring perspective. I just wasn't necessarily fully connected to this until the end, until the final angle following the match. I'm very, very interested to see where that goes. But overall, this match didn't quite nail it for me. I thought it was good, but at the same time, I do love Gene. I love Lycos. I liked their little shenanigans that they had going on at the beginning, and I liked when Gene sort of turns on the more serious mode. I think that's really, really interesting. But ultimately, and I think following the end of the show, I don't know why I said Gene Money actually, because this makes so much more sense. Lycos picked up the win over Gene, which means he will be going into the semi-finals to face Luke Jacobs, which, following the closing angle of this show, is going to be a very interesting one to watch. Gene, after the match, put his title in the ring and just left completely disheartened, completely sort of broken, left his Gene Money Championship of Gene Money in the ring. I'm excited to see where we go with Gene's character and see if we can get sort of a redemption arc, picking up some wins, maybe going for the Progress World title when ultimately Lycos loses it. We'll see. But yeah, I thought this was fun, but it wasn't the blow-away match that I was hoping it would be. Like both guys, but still, just not for me, this one. Then we got probably my second favourite match of the night, and that was Luke Jacobs taking on Mike D. Mike D, I know nothing about Mike D. Absolutely nothing about that man. The agility that man possesses is insane. Like, legitimately insane for a man of his frame and his size. I couldn't believe some of the stuff he was pulling out. The kip-ups, the Hurricane Ranas, absolutely everything that he was pulling out. I was like, what is going on here? And then you pair him with Luke Jacobs, who I think is in my top 5 wrestlers, like, working today. I think Luke Jacobs is utterly fantastic. This was a match made in heaven, and whoever put it together, props to you, because this was insane. There was some insane spots in this match. The standout being the insane third rope powerbomb from Luke Jacobs. Like, they go up to the top rope and it looks like Mike D's going for sort of a Spanish fly, but he goes to the very top rope. They're both standing on the top rope. He goes for a Hurricane Rana from the top, which Luke Jacobs counters into a powerbomb. Sit out powerbomb from the top rope. It was insane. And even before this, you had some insane spots, like Luke Jacobs yeeting Mike D into some chairs with like a brain buster. You had lots of brawling on the outside, huge strike exchanges and kip-ups, like kip-up counters from Mike D. This was so good, and it ultimately ended with Luke Jacobs picking up the win, which was by far the right choice. And I was a big fan of this, huge fan of the outcome. This was an insanely good match, and I can't wait to see more from Mike D. I hope he comes to the UK regularly, because my God, that man is talented. Fantastic match, this. Next up, we had Connor Mills taking on Mike Santana in a match that was very, very different to sort of the other matches that have been in the tournament thus far, because this was very, very technical. This was Connor Mills working over the leg of Santana, and each man sort of playing that chess game against each other. I think this was really, really interesting. It was definitely a change of pace. It was sort of not a cool down match, because it wasn't boring in the slightest. It was extremely captivating, but it was a slower pace to sort of be that break in between the main event and the Luke Jacobs match. It was so good, and I really love Santana. Like, I feel like in AEW, I feel like I didn't see enough of Santana. Like, thinking back, I'm like, oh, he didn't get to show a lot of this. But this was really good. It led to strike exchanges. It was really great back and forth, and I thought he made Connor Mills look great as well. But ultimately, Santana pulled up the win, which I think was the right decision. Santana going forward makes all the sense in the world to me. He's going to be facing Ricky Knight Jr., which is a mouth-watering prospect. That will be a very different match to this. And Connor Mills loses nothing from this match. I think he put on a great showing. Really cool, this. I really enjoyed the technical nature of it, and it was a nice nice breather from the other stuff. It was a nice palate cleanser. That's the word, palate cleanser. Like a very interesting match in that regard. And yeah, thought it was really fun. And then, by God, we got the main event. Kid Lycos defending the Progress World Championship against Mark Haskins. This was my match of the night. This was sensational. This was overbooking galore in a sense that, like, both men were just trying to outsmart each other. They were both trying to outbastard each other, really, because you had Vicky Haskins get involved and sweep the legs of Lycos. Then when Mark Haskins run the ropes, Kid Lycos too pulls the legs of Haskins. Both trying to outdo each other in that regard. And then the ultimate payoff, like the in-ring work in this, I'll get to in a moment because some of the sequences were fantastic. But the character work for the people on the outside and the way that played into the match was great. You had Mark Haskins pretend to fall and then gets Kid Lycos 2 ejected from ringside. Insanely smart. He then does beat up Kid Lycos 2 on the outside and yeet him around the place, which, fair enough, but he's ejected, which means Kid Lycos is facing the disadvantage now. And then you got the ultimate spot when Kid Lycos is climbing to the top rope. Vicky Haskins is about to climb to the top after a great near fall when she got Mark Haskins' foot and put it on the rope. The despicable heel. Lycos pretends to fall on the ropes as though he's been pushed, and Vicky Haskins gets ejected. And then you've got a one-on-one sequence, which is just crazy. You have people kicking out of everything, kicking out of the Shining Wizard, kicking out of a goddamn swanton counter into a powerbomb, which was one of the most insane things I saw on this show. It was so good. And Lycos being that resilient champ, but then Haskins also given his best because he got super kicked, he got brain busted and still kicked out. They were both showing each other like, okay, we can do this. We can like just take this to the next level, and it kept escalating. I thought it was really well paced, this match, for like a main event level. This is one of the best main events that I've seen all year. Like, it was so well executed in what it wanted to do and the story that it told between both characters, because then you have the furthering of the story as Vic Haskins comes back out. You get a low blow onto Lycos, and then it looks like Mark is going to hit Lycos with the belt while the ref's distracted. No. Luke Jacobs comes in and makes the save. You get a ref bump. You get all this schmoz, all this stuff going down, but it really works. It really does work. And Luke Jacobs makes the save, clocks Mark Haskins, brain buster from Kid Lycos for the 1, 2, 3. Loved it. Absolutely loved this main event. I thought it was so good. One of my favourite main events of the year. I don't know if it's better than the Lycos Spike cage match, because that was also sensational. But this also had an amazing post-match angle, which I feel like we could see coming from a mile away. But Luke Jacobs, to his credit, played it perfectly. Kid Lycos is celebrating in the ring. You see Luke Jacobs sort of adjust the elbow pad a little bit, and then he clocks Kid Lycos with a clothesline, nails him with another clothesline, starts beating him down, beating him in the face, gets a mic and cuts an impassioned promo about how Lycos is a paper champion, how he's Ethan Beach, how he's worthless, and about how he's going to make Progress Northwest strong. I am so here for heel Luke Jacobs in Progress. I want him to win the belt. I want him to win the tournament. I want him to face Lycos in Manchester, really selfishly, because I don't know, you wouldn't do that because he's probably going to get cheered in Manchester unless he can really play the crowd like that. But my God, if they do that match in Manchester, I will be there day one. That sounds amazing. They'll probably do that match, I would imagine, at the London show before All In. Sounds like the right place to do it. But my God, if we get that in Manchester, sign me up. Sign me up right now. And that closed the show. That was a really hot angle to sort of close out Super Strong Style Day 1. And I had an absolute blast with this show. I thought it was so fun. I'd give it 4.5 out of 5. Like, the closing angle is one of the best closing angles that I've seen all year, hands down. And I think the Lycos match with Haskins was great. Derice versus Anglais Blanc was great. Shelton versus Leon Slater, great. Luke Jacobs versus Mike D, great. And then tomorrow night, we've got a ladder match, a fatal four-way ladder match, and the final of the tournament. I'm very excited for this direction. And yeah, I can't wait. But I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Were you there live? Let me know, and I'll try and reply to every single one of them. Thank you all ever so much for your support. Stay tuned for my review of Progress Wrestling Day 2, which will be out tomorrow, and my review of AEW Double or Nothing, because I am a busy, busy boy. And have a nice day.